On the surface, he was charming, intelligent, and trustworthy. But behind the smile was one of the most dangerous killers in American history. This is the story of Ted Bundy. He was born Theodore Robert Bundy in 1946, raised believing his mother was his sister and his grandparents were his parents. From the very beginning, his life was built on a lie. By his early 20s, Bundy appeared to be the perfect all-American student. He volunteered in politics, worked crisis hotlines, and earned the trust of those around him. No one suspected what he was becoming. He learned that pretending to be injured made people lower their guard. A cast, a crutch, a harmless smile. It was the moment his crimes truly began. Victims later described him as polite, calm, and completely ordinary. They never realized the danger until it was too late. By then, there was no escape. For years, women vanished across multiple states with no clear pattern. Witnesses described the same man, the same calm voice, the same method. Police departments didn't realize they were hunting one killer. By the time they did, the body count was already rising. The break finally came when survivors spoke up. They described the same man, the same car, the same approach. Small details began to line up, forming a clear pattern. And slowly, one name started appearing again and again, a name police could no longer ignore. It was a crowded summer afternoon with dozens of people nearby. Witnesses later said the man introduced himself simply as Ted. He asked for help loading a sailboat, explaining he had an injured arm in a cast. Two young women agreed to help him, separately hours apart. Both walked with him away from the busy lakeside. Neither was ever seen alive again. At the time, no one realized they had just watched a killer at work. Once he had them away from the crowd, the situation changed quickly. Both women were attacked, restrained, and taken to a second location. They were sexually assaulted, beaten, and strangled, left with no chance to escape. No one nearby heard screams. The lake remained calm. And by the time anyone realized something was wrong, it was already over. The first real break came late one night during a routine traffic stop. Police pulled Ted Bundy over for driving erratically through a quiet neighborhood. What they found inside the car changed everything. Hidden in the vehicle were items no innocent man could explain. Handcuffs, a crowbar, rope, a ski mask. What investigators would later call a rape kit. Bundy tried to laugh it off, but for the first time, the mask was starting to slip. Even after his arrest, Bundy remained confident. He gave misleading information about himself and downplayed who he really was. The judge refused to release him until his identity could be properly confirmed. In court, Bundy chose to represent himself. He smiled for cameras, charmed reporters, and acted like the smartest man in the room. Many people still believed he was innocent. But the evidence kept mounting. And while the world watched him perform, Ted Bundy was already planning his escape. Ted Bundy escaped from custody twice. The first time, he jumped from a courthouse window in Colorado. He was recaptured 6 days later. Months after his second escape, he vanished completely. This time, he was free for nearly 6 weeks, and during that time, he killed again. In Florida, Bundy attacked a college sorority house, murdering 2 young women. Days later, he abducted and killed a 12-year-old girl. Even on the run, the violence never stopped. It was the final crime that shocked even hardened investigators. A 12-year-old girl was abducted from her neighborhood in broad daylight. Witnesses later placed Bundy near the scene. This time, there was no escape. The country was no longer watching a mystery. They were watching a monster being hunted to the end. Ted Bundy was finally convicted and sentenced to death. After years of lies, manipulation, and escape, there was nowhere left to run. In 1989, he was executed in the electric chair. For many, it brought a sense of closure, but the horror of what he had done would never truly fade. The name Ted Bundy became a warning of how evil can hide in plain sight. Ted Bundy was ultimately found guilty in part because of bite mark impressions taken from one of his victims. It was one of the first times forensic odontology played a major role in a murder conviction. Bundy denied it fiercely, but the evidence was undeniable. While on death row, Bundy began speaking with investigators. He offered insight into another killer terrorizing Washington state. Bundy referred to him as the Riverman, later identified as the Green River Killer. He chillingly suggested police leave a body undiscovered, explaining that killers like him often return to their victims. Bundy admitted he did the same. He blamed his violent urges on pornography, claiming it fueled fantasies he could no longer control. Many rejected that explanation, seeing it as one final attempt to shift responsibility. While imprisoned, Bundy married a woman who believed in his innocence. Together they had a child. For years she stood by him, until the weight of the evidence became impossible to deny. Bundy's final meal was simple: steak, eggs, hash browns, toast, milk, and juice. On January 24, 1989, Ted Bundy was executed in the electric chair. Outside the prison, hundreds gathered. As the execution was carried out, cheers erupted. People shouted, "Burn Bundy! Burn!" For some, it was justice. For others, a grim reminder of how deep the darkness can run and how easily it can hide behind a smile. And that's where this chapter closes. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe. If there's another killer or case you want explored, let me know in the comments. Your suggestions shape what comes next.